So a reader requested that I do this next video on basically how to handle being behind. And unfortunately this is something that happens really often in an online kind of environment because you don't have a teacher breathing down your neck anymore, or, you know, looking over your shoulder as you do your homework, or reminding you when you walk into the classroom that you have a test on Friday and you need to turn in your homework by Thursday, or anything like that. Suddenly you're really responsible for turning things in on time. And so when you're right at your computer and you have Sims on your computer, it becomes like this big temptation to procrastinate, or even if, you know, you just have a hectic schedule because of sports or anything else, it can be really easy to fall behind. And I am actually one of those like legendary students who has been hundreds of lessons behind. And I would not recommend that, because you will hate yourself and your life if you don't already. So yeah, I mean, basically I was asked, what do you do if you're behind? And so the obvious answer here is cry, because that's pretty much what happens. But aside from that, like actual practical advice, I think a lot of catching up is a mental game. Honestly, I think a lot of doing high school is a mental game. If you're really behind, I'd recommend that you don't think about how behind you are. And it seems almost like logical to be like, okay, I'm like 150 lessons behind and I have a month, so I need to do X amount per day. And like, yeah, you should calculate that out and then never think about how far behind you are ever again. Because when you do that, it just, at least always to me, it just feels like monstrous. I'm like, oh my god, I have 3 weeks or a month or 2 weeks or 1 week or whatever, and I'm still behind 40 lessons or 100 lessons or 150 lessons. And it feels overwhelming if you do that. And most of the time I feel like it is possible to catch up. The thing that you're going to want to do if you know that you're prone to procrastinating is to always give yourself enough time to catch up. Like, you can procrastinate and get away with it for a certain amount of time, not just like your teachers won't pester you, but like you can afford to do that for a certain period of time. But you always need to give yourself, honestly, I feel like at least a month to catch up on everything if you're going to do that. And I wouldn't recommend that you do that, because at that point then you have to speed through all your lessons and you generally get much lower grades. And I know this because I have gotten much lower grades because I've been so behind. So don't do that. I'm like a cautionary tale. Don't be like me. So yeah, always give yourself time to catch up. And don't think about how far you're behind, because that can kill you. Just because, especially if you have like anxiety issues, if you start thinking about how far you're behind, it's just catastrophic. Like, you're just gonna die. So don't do that. The other practical thing you can do, other than just like working on your courses, which obviously you need to start doing, is you should go to your teachers, even though they might be pissed at you for not like working in their course, and tell them about the situation, like whatever made you not want to work. If it's just like I'm lazy and procrastinated, okay, that's probably not what you want to tell them. But like if you have like legit anxiety issues and you got stuck on, you know, a test or a portfolio and then you just like never went back to the course because you were kind of like terrified, and that's happened to me. I've been like, this test sucks, or, well, not this test sucks because you're not supposed to like stop at the assessment itself, but like, this homework sucks, or this portfolio is terrible and I don't want to do it because it is ruining my life. If it's something like that and you just got really stressed and like never ever wanted to go back, so you didn't, as silly as it sounds, you should probably tell them that. Not only so they can be more accommodating in the future when kids get to that assessment, but then because like that's a legit, like, I was stressed out and couldn't, it was like mentally impossible for me to do this at that point, so I just put it off forever. And if you have like a valid reason, either because of like anxiety or other kinds of health issues, physical or mental, like they should count mental stuff as a health reason. Or if like something in your family happened, like, I don't know, someone died, or your parents got divorced or something like traumatic that made you stop working in the course that you can pull out and be like, look, dude, here's why I didn't do anything, you should really do that. Because what can happen is, if your teacher's nice, they might give you an extension in the course, so that instead of your end date being like a certain, I know for semester 1, I think it's January 15th, at least at my school, and that's going to be different for everyone. So instead of having, for me, only until January 15th to complete everything in this course, I would have maybe an extra 2 weeks or an extra month or something. And so you can actually push your courses into the summer that way. So I'm not going to recommend that unless you really need an extension, but it's something that a lot of kids don't know about that you can take advantage of. Just be sure to approach your guidance counselor or advisory teacher early enough that you can get their approval and get your teacher's approval. But again, along the lines of things I've said in my previous videos, it's really good if you always keep a dialogue open with your teacher so that they know your name. Because they do have to approve those extensions. Like, it's not just something that administration only handles. Your teacher has to say yes too. So yeah, talk to your teachers, even if you're behind. It sucks though, but I kind of need to. So extensions are the one thing that you can do. Using placeholders is technically prohibited. Like, it's not an honor code violation, at least not as far as I'm aware. Like, I've read the honor code. But like, a lot of your lessons will say something like, you have to do this course like lesson by lesson without skipping things, unless your teacher tells you otherwise. But something that I've done in the past, and something that other kids have done in the past, and like, teachers never really seem to be disturbed about it. Like, they may call you and be like, I saw that you did this, and like, I'm not that happy about it, but I'm not going to dock points or anything. Go back and submit it. Is you can submit like a blank Word document into the Dropbox, so that if you are like stuck on a portfolio or something and you need to move on, all the Dropbox checks for is that there's a document there. You know, not the name, not what's inside it. It can be blank. Usually what I do when I have to do that, and I would really recommend you only do it when you like have to, not just I don't want to do this right now, is leave a little note, like a nice little note, about how, hey, I'm really sorry, but I'm struggling with this portfolio. If you want to like call me and talk about it or something, that's fine, whatever, like kiss butt, butter them up, and be like, I'm sorry, but I'm skipping it for right now so I can move on, because I don't want my lessons to pile up. And then submit the document that says that into the Dropbox and mark the lesson complete. And if you're going to do that though, you better be ready to like work your butt off for the rest of the day, because if they don't see like immediate progress then to clear all the overdue lessons after that, they're not going to be happy. So if you're going to do the placeholder thing, definitely then, like immediately, same day, minutes after you submit that, go and work through the course. Like, especially if it's just quick checks or stuff, like, get those done. The other thing that you should probably know if you're working through like a backlog of lessons is that, and this is something that I'm probably going to talk about in my grading video too, make sure to look at how everything in your course is weighted. And this is basically just to minimize damage, because if you're so far behind, odds are that you're going to have to like rush through your courses and you'll get a lower grade. I mean, that's kind of inevitable, but you can minimize the damage that you do by, you click on the little gradebook icon that's on your homepage, and then you click on the individual course that's listed. And then you can scroll down and see like the weight of tests and quizzes and quick checks and participation and whatever else, and a list of the assessments, not only the ones that you've completed and the grades and feedback that's there, but then future ones as well. And next to where the grade would be is like the weight. So you can figure out, like, if you're approaching a test, you can see that this specific test is worth maybe 15% of your test grade, and then maybe your test grade is worth 60% of your actual grade. So you can tell that tests overall are pretty important, and if your other tests to this date were like 11% each of your test grade, you know that this particular test at 15% is more than 11, so it's more important. So you want to like nail that test. And if you see that it's less important relative to the other kinds of assessments of those types, then you can afford to get a slightly lower grade. And again, it depends on what kind of grade you're aiming for. Like if you're like straight A or die, then you definitely want to do this. If you hover around A's, B's, you still want to do this. It's probably less important if you're more like C's, B's, D's. But I'd recommend it, especially at least with, like in math, tests are always weighted really heavily, unless you're doing like AP Calc and then it's portfolios. And in English, it's always like portfolios are weighted really heavily, like 60% or something, or 40 to 60% usually in those sorts of courses. So you definitely want to, figure out which are the most important and which you need to really nail or do better on than the other ones, and which you can afford, and which ones that you can afford to, slack off a little bit or not complete everything and rush through it. So that can help minimize the damage. Aside from that, I don't know if there's anything else I can really cover. Like a big part of catching up on your lessons is just doing them. Like I said, don't think about how far you're behind, because that can really mess you up when you feel like it's impossible. You have to believe that it's possible to catch up. I feel like that's necessary. Just a word of advice about parents, I guess. And I might actually do a video on parents, or like do a video specifically for parents, but I don't know, because that's kind of like towing the line. I'm really fortunate to have, my dad is really authoritarian. He likes to breathe down my back about everything, and I really resent that he does that. Like, he's like crazy. But my mom is my primary learning coach, who, logs my attendance hours and verifies lessons and things like that. And she doesn't, not that she doesn't care, like, she cares, but she's always had the attitude with me that, grades matter, and you need to know that, but, it's your life, and it's up to you what kind of grades you want to get. She's, always had that attitude, and the same thing goes as far as overdue lessons. It's important that you don't fall really behind, but again, it's your life, and if you're going to fall really behind, then that's something that, that's your choice, and you have to deal with that. So she gives me a lot of responsibility and a lot of autonomy, and honestly, I feel like that's important. I've been getting so many asks about, parents who are, tiger parents, who, breathe down everyone's neck about your schoolwork, and that's just so stressful. So if there's any way to, get your parents off your back and just let them, and just make them let you hyper-focus on your work and get it all done so that they're not being psycho, do that. I don't know how you do that, really, because I don't have parents like that. My dad is like that, but my parents are separated, and I only see him, every 2 weeks or whatever, and when he's rah, 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 don't you dare ever do this or that, it's dude, back off, and I can get away with saying that, he doesn't beat me or anything. So, I don't know what to tell you guys who have, really brutal parents. Sucks to be you. But if you can get them off your back somehow, then try and do that, because it really helps to, do it on your own without more pressure, because you already know you're behind. It's not like you don't know you're behind. So, yeah. But being behind is not something I would recommend. If you can do anything at all to, not be behind, then do that. The only way to really prevent yourself from dropping behind is doing your lessons. I wish there was some kind of, magical gaming the system kind of advice that I could give you for, not falling behind, but there isn't. It's really as simple as doing your lessons. And I recognize that that's not simple at all, because like I've gotten to some lessons and been like, I never want to do this ever in my life. Never. But, you know, you just have to do it. It helps if you're really competitive. Like, it really helps you, and that's something that I've tried to think about when I get to, like, a test that I think is hard, or just anything that I don't want to do. And I just think, like, this is a challenge, and I'm gonna destroy it. Because I'm really competitive, and that's kind of how I think. If the idea of class rank helps you at all, I don't know if that does, but like they publish class rank, or rather you can request class rank at the end of each semester in the year. And if you, I guess, if you work every day in the course and you're making gradual progress, then your grades are going to be higher than a lot of kids. So, you know, again, if you're pretty competitive and want to see like a high number on your class rank, maybe that could be a motivator. I don't really know. Personally, I'm never a big fan of like incentives, but maybe that helps for you. Like if your parents tell you they're gonna do something for you if you do like all your schoolwork on time, if that helps you and you can set that up with one of your parents or whatever, then I guess do that. For me, it's never really worked. Like I like to draw that reason from myself, but I mean for some people it works, and if that's gonna like help you do your schoolwork, then please do that, because honestly being so behind will make you miserable and you will cry every night. Or at least I do, and I know that like I've seen tons and tons of kids in, you know, FLVS and Connections Academy tags being like, I'm so stressed and I hate everything and I can't do the sports that I wanted to do anymore because I have no time, or you know, something like that. Don't go behind if you can help it. So that's my rant. If you have specific questions about courses and course loads, you can send those to me. I can't really address every single one, but the interesting thing about AP actually is that if you're the kind of person who goes behind because there's so much busy work in standard or like honors courses where you're doing like worksheet after worksheet and practice problem after practice problem, it might actually be in your best interest to try an AP course, because something that I've found in almost every one of them is that there are like significantly less lessons than in your standard or honors courses. So you have like, you know, the assignments are harder and there's a lot more analysis required, but you have like a week to do every assignment, or you have a couple days to do every assignment. So it's like those rare portfolios that you get in standard or honors where, you know, they give you 5 days or 4 days or whatever, and you're like, oh my god, thank god, I have so long to do this. Every AP course is like that. Your exception is probably like AP Physics, which is like every day I'm going to murder you. And microecon and macroecon also have like 6 different units. So there's still a bunch of lessons, but like the English courses, even though they're a time sink, they have like a surprisingly small number of lessons. The same goes for psychology, kind of, and AP Gov, and I'm sure a whole bunch of APs too. So if it's just the busy work that gets you behind and you'd prefer like to have bigger assignments but much longer time to do it, and stuff and like material that isn't so obnoxiously removed from anything that you care about, if that makes sense. Like sometimes you pull up a course and you're just like, I don't care about this. No one cares about this. It's only taught in high school and that's it. Like if you have that feeling, you might want to try an AP, honestly. And I know that sounds insane and like the totally wrong solution, but I feel like that could actually help. So I think now my rant is done. But yeah, if you have more specific questions about the course load in a certain course, I can take a look at the syllabus and tell you. So yeah, I hope that helps.